Welcome to Moving with Meaning and to another episode in our Inner Sunshine series. I'm your host, Krystal. Today's conversation is about one of the most underrated yet powerful tools in leadership, joy. Joy isn't a distraction from serious work. It's the fuel that makes meaningful work possible. Too often, we treat joy like it's optional in leadership, like it's a bonus we'll get to once the real work is done. But here's the truth. Joy isn't fluff, it's fuel. It powers our creativity, it deepens our connections, and it builds the kind of cultures where people want to stay, grow, and give their best. This episode is all about how to reclaim joy as a leadership tool, not just for you, but for your team, your organization, and your mission. Hey, I did say I'm all about branding, didn't I? Whoa, welcome to the joy effect. In this episode, we'll explore what joyful leadership looks like in action, how joy drives team performance and retention, ways to reconnect to what brings you alive at work. Reclaiming joy should not be an afterthought, but a core leadership practice that drives performance, engagement, and well-being. When we choose joy, we don't just improve results, we change the way leadership feels for everyone. Set the standard. Leading with joy, you give others permission to do the same, and you create spaces where people don't just work, they thrive. So let's dive in and learn how joy can transform not just how we feel, but how we lead. When leaders embrace joy as a strategy, they unlock creativity, strengthen connections, and build cultures where people feel energized and committed. Joy sparks innovation by giving people permission to think boldly. It deepens relationships by creating space for authentic connection, and it shapes cultures where people feel seen, valued, and inspired to bring their best selves to work. Now, this is going to be an exciting episode just because we don't even speak about just joy, literally, enjoyment of what we do. Sure, we have passion and we love it, but sometimes when that starts to feel like it's more of a chore or a task or just a check box, right? We're losing that passion. Things are sizzling out. And we want to make sure that when you come in today, you're coming in today feeling great, right? Even if something negative is happening in your life, you can at least say, well, you know what? This is something that I can maintain, something that can be sustainable, and at least I enjoy what I'm doing and what I'm bringing to the world and to this company, okay? And we're going to get started and we're going to talk about why joy is more than just a nice to have in leadership. Here are 3 powerful benefits of reclaiming joy as a strategy. Number 1, sparks creativity. When people feel safe and energized, they think bigger and bolder. Joy creates the space for fresh ideas and problem solving. Amen to this. Listen, when people feel like they're heard or their ideas are being entertained, right? And when I say entertained, I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean, when you offer your opinion about someone responds specifically to that and will either say, okay, that's a good idea if this wasn't the case, because then that will produce this. That way you know that they considered it and they also provided additional feedback for you that you probably didn't know or weren't thinking of. So you've grown into that and you continue to put forth additional ideas because now you're in a space where you're welcomed and you're learning and gaining from this. In addition to that, it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm gonna get bad here with this, and you want to make sure that's the excitement, is to be creative. It's about knowing that you are capable of this, because when you feel like you have to be in a box and there's no room for you to fit in or no room for you to expand, it's very daunting and it gets boring a little bit over time. And these are not necessarily for folks who like things to be the same every way, because we have to understand that change is coming, right? And for some people, just coming in the morning, pushing a couple buttons and just walking through the day, that might work for them, but that's because maybe the culture around them is more of a fit for them. But at the end of the day, that culture is something that is changing, and it brings them joy, even if the day-to-day tasks may be more mundane. And for others, it's the reverse, right? So these things should follow you wherever you go, depending on what kind of priority you have as far as where you choose to work. Okay. Second benefit, strengthens connection. Joy breaks down barriers. It helps teams bond, trust each other, and collaborate more deeply. Yes. And here's what I want to say. Collaboration is very important because there are certain personalities that I'm just going to lie to you, they clash. There are certain experiences that people have when they experience someone negatively. It's hard for them to walk back that, right? Because all they remember is that this is how I felt when this was happening. And it's hard to see that person in a different light, a renewed light, as if they are trying to come back and put a lot of effort in to fix and remediate what happened. And it's difficult for us to give that person grace because it's like, nah, you betrayed me, or you made me feel like this, or I remember that. Which means when I say I remember that, it's like, I know what you're capable of, okay? Both in a negative light and a positive light. So be careful with that, okay? Because collaboration is very important for just joy. Because if someone is very difficult to have a conversation with, and remember I told y'all about that, there's some people that I just limit 30 minutes to in different pockets of time to deal with, because that's all I can take before I start to be like, I got to go, I got to leave the job, I got to go on FMLA. I need to do something, like, because it's that fatiguing, it's that draining, right? And so you want to make sure that collaboration and how your team bonds is really important. I have a few strategies on this that I've actually been a part of, and some that, if the time permits and everyone's up for it, it is really good. And so right now I don't have time, but I do make time for other ways of acknowledgement and setting aside some kind of recognition or just a breather check with them. But at the end of the day, it is about trust, okay? Because when you break that trust, it just makes a world of difference. So it's be very careful to not be triggered, or very careful to not fall, right, for that piece of, oh well, if I tell them a little this or a little that, I will gain their trust by breaking someone else's. You got to be careful with that. Hold true to those values. All right, and the third and last one is builds positive culture. Joyful leadership models that it's okay to enjoy the work. It creates a culture where people want to stay and grow. Hey, this is all about, when you talk about people staying, that's sustainment and that's retention. Okay, and we love retention at a lot of jobs. And part of retention is, yes, it's about being happy, but it's also about opportunities for growth and expansion. And this is why I got into consulting. It's because that was the place where I could go to different industries, different jobs, and be in different places and really be exposed to all the good and the bad, to be exposed to all the latest technologies and maybe some not so latest, but I at least got the experience of dealing with that. So it just adds to your toolkit and your qualifications and your skill set. We're dealing with the boomer technology, and they were really good about just kind of sticking with what they know, even if what they know is very tedious. It's one of those things where I'm too old to be trying to learn something new. Like that spark and that passion stuff, that's faded. Like, let me just coast the way to retirement. That's what you're dealing with in combination with these new generation, millennials and going on. And that's just because we're always looking for the latest and greatest, right? AI is a big buzzword. It's all those things. But if you're always dealing with things in the past, or with more, I'm trying to think of a good word, legacy systems, where it's just kind of one of those things where we're just stretching out as long as we can until we're forced to move into something new, that can also take a toll on folks. And people will look when they feel like they're just coasting, because they don't want to coast. They're not anywhere near retirement. They have their whole lives to look forward to. So your companies are caught between these two different generations where they have to try to almost please everyone, and sometimes you just can't, right? You have to make the decision that's best for the company. And if that's getting with the program and moving to more modern technology and modern ways of working to be competitive, that's what you're going to have to do. And it's kind of one of the things is those who want to come along, they will come along. And those who don't, they will fall off here and there. And that's unfortunate, but that's the nature of what change does. Okay, so the way I look at this is that was great, right? And we're going right into the let's make it real scenarios, okay? So it's that time. We're going to make it real. And when I say joy isn't fluff, it's fuel, oh, I really mean that. All right? And one thing about joy is it's not about ignoring problems or avoiding the hard truths. It's about building the kind of culture, mindset, and spirit that makes the tough stuff worth it. So, what does reclaiming joy look like in practice? Let's explore a few examples and personal examples of using joy as a tool for creativity, connection, and culture building. First one, and I'm gonna go through these. I'm not gonna kind of dig on them too much because I've just been coming up with a lot more examples lately, and I like the format a little bit better. So we're gonna go with the first one. This is the professional scenario number one: creativity boost in meetings. So your team's brainstorming sessions feel stale, participation is half-hearted, and as a lead, you know this, right? If you're running your meeting, you can read the room, okay? So a way to pretty much reclaim joy in that is you shake things up. You play energizing music as people enter, start with a gratitude round, or use creative prompts that make people laugh and think. What's the result? Well, people loosen up, new ideas emerge, and engagement soars. Joy created the space for creativity to thrive, right? It's about creating space. So if people are coming in with a kind of, oh gosh, this is another meeting I have to go through and I just need to sit through it. If they're coming in with that, they have no room to embrace joy or to be creative, right? So you kind of do certain things to kind of open that space up and basically change that mindset. So now you feel great. And you see this a lot when you're talking about, when I say playing the energizing music. So you've seen it when you're on virtual workshops and you're kind of sitting in the room waiting for things to get started. They're playing music that's probably pretty much upbeat, and it just depends on what the latest is. It could be the latest theme song to some of the new line dances happening these days, whatever, okay, you know what it is. Or when you're walking into a room, and I see that a lot when we're doing like town halls, like big company meetings, right? You really want people to be excited and energized, and so they do a lot of those activities. I've seen people do like hire actors to really engage with the audience. I've seen this. Like I'm serious. I went something. I was like, oh, they really did this up, and you better believe they got a lot of interaction from the crowd just by doing something like that. So you figure out what is the best motivator and try new things and search for those things. I did do a gratitude round, and I've seen this. Okay, so this happens a lot personally in my personal life. So you know how you sit down for Thanksgiving, and before everyone goes and eat and says grace, we go around and we say, what are you thankful for this year, or something like that. That's a gratitude type of round scenario, okay? But at the end of the day, you get people to laugh, and when you get people to embrace laughter and joy, the creativity does soar, and they start to think on how they can contribute to this as well. All right, professional scenario number two: building connection with remote teams. Ooh, this is gonna be a big one because this is the new operating model for today. Not only just locally from a national perspective, but working across the borders as well. This is just very common. Your remote team is feeling disconnected. Morale is slipping. Reclaiming joy, how you do that? Well, you introduce fun check-in questions at meetings, virtual coffee chats, or good news moments to celebrate wins that are big and small. The results you get from that? Well, people feel seen, valued, and connected beyond their task list. Joy becomes the glue that holds your team together. Oh, this one I do, honey, quite often, okay? And this is because I just work with a lot of folks in India and just everywhere, just on that eastern side countries. I just work with them a lot, and a lot of things that are important, I capture a lot of things that are important to them. So sometimes it's tea. Like I said, I've done that before where I did tea. I've had them actually schedule meetings with me just to catch up. Nothing business related. They felt so empowered by our conversation, they scheduled just a powwow, a 30-minute powwow with me to talk about what the favorite Bollywood movies are, or just for them to tell me about their culture. And you could see the excitement on their face. Now I'm learning more about it than they are, but they have someone that they feel when they see, they're like, someone's interested in what we do here in our culture. They get really excited. Like, I mean it, and people change how they work for you when you are actually doing that. Another thing I did do is, we were working remote. This was like when COVID was happening, and everyone was kind of like, oh, we miss seeing you in the office and all of those stuff. So we did we scheduled like a happy hour. So everyone would come in after hours, log in, so maybe like 6, something like that, after work is done. And we all brought our little beverage, whatever, the libation, whatever it was. And we all sat up on there and we talked about the things that, what sports we played. We just talked and shared a lot of things about what brought us joy. It was awesome. So I think this is a great thing to do. And sometimes it just takes a moment to bring this back to life. But hey, listen, it's there. All right. Final scenario for professional scenario number 3, culture building in high stress seasons. Your organization is going through change. Stress is palpable. Well, how are you going to reclaim joy on that? As a leader, you model lightness even during heavy times. Share stories, recognize people's contributions publicly, and bring small moments of levity into meetings. So what do you get when you do all that? What's the result? You show that it's okay to be human at work. Your culture becomes one of resilience and humanity. Ain't that so? It's the truth. It is the truth. And I'm going through something like that now, where a leadership change is happening. And at the end of the day, it's about really just changing to how things were to how things are going to be. And it's hard, right? And it takes patience, both on the leader coming in and those who are switching up things, right? There's a lot of context and whys and rationale about certain things. And sometimes it was just how things were functioning. So that can bring a lot of stress, because sometimes, I was like, I ain't gonna have no job after this, because it just feels like you're being checked in on or micromanaged, and there was not enough insight before, and now you get someone in that didn't have any at all. So it takes a minute to bring, just to kind of, like the way it says, is to bring a sense of levity. It's kind of like, whoa, before we start making assumptions and drawing conclusions, let's start with, here's the background, and here's why we were doing things this way. Now we can have a conversation that is less positive but more truthful, right? We introduce candor into the environment, and when you do that, you build a level of trust with the new leadership and those coming in, because that's what you want. You want to build the trust, you want to bring collaboration, and because at the end of the day, that brings support. And I ain't gonna lie to you, support is a very key attribute for me when I enjoy work, for me to enjoy work. Because I'm not trying to be walking on eggshells every time I go into the office, or when I'm trying to engage with somebody. I just don't have time for it. I'm too old for it. I'm too mature for it. I'm grown, and we all are grown. It's not like I'm dealing with children, right? And so sometimes it can bring up pettiness when that stress is there, right? And it's just really important to kind of say, hey, listen, I want to recognize that you guys are doing a great job. This is not what the intention is, right? So keep doing what you're doing, and we're gonna go with the flow, and we're gonna make it through this. All right. Now let's hit into the personal scenarios. I believe I only got 2 here. So personal scenario number 1, reconnecting to what lights you up. You realize you're showing up drained every day, even for work you once loved. I told y'all. So how are we gonna reclaim that joy? You ask yourself, what used to make this fun for me? Maybe it was creative problem solving, mentoring others, or feeling part of a mission. You find ways to bring those elements back. And well, what's the result when you do that? You reignite your own energy and show up more inspired for your team. Now, this is great not only for leadership, but being a subordinate, if you will, someone reporting, a direct report to someone in the leadership. I remember being part of a lot of teams where I felt like I was stuck. And I was literally just pushing buttons and running reports every day. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to grow here, whatever. But I didn't realize what I stopped doing is I said, well, you know what? That's really about 2-3 hours of my day is doing that. I have 4 other hours that I could use to generate some creativity? What opportunity do I see here, right? That I can not only present here, but maybe there's something that isn't here that I think that would be nice to do. And then I would start to do research, and then I'll start to, practice that. Another scenario was that, well, I got a whole lot of time left. I'm gonna pick up on some training, right? And study and grow as far as educational, right? Certifications and things like that. And when you start to do that and you start to learn more about what you do and what you can do, right? You realize, whoa, okay, I got something going on. So now your day is honestly filled with just exploration. And that in itself, learning new skills and techniques, brings new ideas, because now you see new avenue, new routes, new solutions and strategies, and you can bring that back to the table. So, food for thought. It always worked for me, and I heard it, and I recommend it to a lot of folks. And no one wants to always, when you say, oh, you could do more education, nobody want to be learning stuff all the time. But some cases it does, reignite. So whatever works for you, you do. Personal scenario number 2, bringing joy to daily routines. Life feels like a grind. You're just checking boxes. How are you going to reclaim that joy? You decide to add small rituals that make you smile, a playlist that energizes you before work, a gratitude journal to close your day, or lunchtime walks outside. Well, what's the result? Your mood lifts. Your interactions become warmer. You become a source of positivity for those around you. And I really like that. And when you're that, because when people start to come to you about, the daily frustrations, that's what you are to them, right? It's just you're that power source to support them throughout their day. But really, when you do those lunchtime walks, I've done that several times, and I come back really different. Like, my mood is completely different. So I encourage you to do that for yourself, and you model that for others. And that's a great recommendation for those of you who are leaders who have folks coming to them frustrated. Tell them to do that. Take a walk, journal the stuff down, get it out of you, and then come back. Okay. Now, listen, we're going to keep moving on this, and, we're going to go for the next one, because at the end of the day, I ain't going to lie to you. We got to figure out how we're going to put these strategies into play, right? So now, before we do that, we got to get through why, if we know joy is so powerful, why do so many leaders struggle with it, right? So here are a few reasons, just a few. Number 1 is fear of looking unprofessional. Some think joy means losing seriousness or authority. And yeah, that's true, right? It can kind of seem immature and out of place. But that's just because no one's modeling it, right? And that's from the top down. If you want to change, you got to start from yourself. Your attitude and that pick me up is the world, okay? And when and I've done that before, what happens is like, when people are complaining, it's like, I'm good. We good. We don't do that over there. Oh, we have a good time, right? They start to, either you get more people coming over to you, or that word starts to travel, okay? And that's just your brand. That's what you're trying to do. Is like, I'm trying to be the one leading. I'm not trying to fit in all the time, okay? There are certain cases where you may have to, but a lot of them, you ain't got to do all that. All right. Second one is burnout and stress. It's hard to prioritize joy when you're running on empty. That's why we said take them little breaks, right? Mental health checks, all that kind of stuff. Don't push your limits. I know it is natural for us to do that, and we want to do that. And there are certain times and places for that. But when you realize that you are at a stress point, a boiling point, or you're hitting burnout, you need to prioritize what you find joyful. Not only in life, but just professionally, but in general, okay? Because you need to refill that tank, okay? Last one is cultural norms. Many workplaces value grind and hustle over humanity and well-being. That's a sad thing to say, but it is so true. It's like, we promote mental health, and we do stuff with this insurance to help give us that, but it's like, but y'all can't be working me to death and forcing, it's like, you're providing that because you're working me that hard. That's what it feels like, okay? So that's great to provide that, but we also need to balance that in our day-to-day business as usual activities, right? So when you see someone who is a great bang out worker, don't overutilize them. You better make sure you say, model this person. Y'all need to be doing these other things. Don't be trying to have the good worker take on the someone else who needs some work, take over their work because you just like, I need to get it done. We growing people, we multiplying everybody. We're not trying to just be like, I need 1 or 2, 3, 4 U's. No. You get something out of each and every one of them, right? Because it's about people's well-being. You got to prioritize that. So we loved it. I love this. Okay. And we're back at those strategy points. So how can you start bringing joy back today? Here are 3 quick strategies to reclaim joy as a leadership tool. Number 1, start meetings with wins. Remember I told you about telling people about starting when you have to deliver bad news, start with the good news first. Same thing. I think this is going to go across the way, right? So ask your team to share one recent success or moment of gratitude. It immediately changes the energy in the room. Schedule this maybe a 30-minute meeting, maybe once a month, right? Depending on the capacity and the availability of folks. But just take a moment to kind of say, and give people the moment to acknowledge the work that they did and call that out. Okay. I know that some people do polls and you can nominate people and things like that, but I mean, just nominating one I feel so uncomfortable nominating one person out of my entire team because everybody's done a good job. So whatever you're able to do that, I think the nomination is great. So you get a gift card and all this other stuff, shout outs. But I think it's great for folks to bring that to the lead's attention because there are some things that are happening that we just can't see or know of. And that's important, right? So you give the people the room and the space to really shine for you. Second strategy is celebrate progress, not just outcomes. Acknowledge milestones along the way, recognize effort, learning, and growth, not just final results. That goes into what I just said above. Great lead into that because it's about progress. And for a lot of people, they will talk about effort. And I've always told someone, I was like, listen, you can put in all the effort you want, but if it ain't coming out in these results, well, I don't know if we're going to get there, right? But it is important to recognize the progress, okay? Not just the end result. Last one is make space for connection. Schedule informal check-ins or team building moments. People work better together when they feel connected as humans. I told y'all that, right? Gave you an example above. Just keep it moving. All right. So we are running out of time, but I can't wait and just leave y'all without my motivational message. So we're going to do that right now. All right. So here's the invitation today. Don't wait for the big wins or the quiet seasons to choose joy. We're not here to grind ourselves down. We're here to lead in a way that's sustainable, human, and yes, joyful. Because when you choose joy, you don't just change your mood. You change your team, your culture, and the way people feel about working alongside you. Remember, joy isn't fluff, it's fuel. So fuel yourself, fuel your people, and keep moving with meaning. Ain't that something? Lasting piece of gratitude that I can give out today and receive. All right. As a reminder, if you want more of me that delve into deeper topics, check out my podcast, Move With Me in the Podcast. I'm on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Check out my website, movingwithme.com. Also, if you are interested in my path to emotional resilience, I wrote my business memoir that takes you on my 8-year journey in a tough, competitive environment. You can find it on Amazon by the title Embrace the Code, Cultivating Emotional Resilience in a Tough IT Culture. Here is my graphic with all of my social media connections. Hit your girl up or just follow along. Maybe something will pop out at you. Also, if you are particularly interested or inspired by any of my conversations or episodes and think this would be a good match for your next event, I'm your gal, I speak. Or you're interested in converting this into a workshop, I got you covered, I teach. Perhaps this is right in line with your own experience and want to partner with me to add a bit more oxygen to that spark. I'm your coach. Maybe finding the right words for your own memoir or ebook has you all balled up in knots. That's all right. I'm a ghostwriter that can put your thoughts and ideas to paper. If any of those strike your interest and you just want to talk opportunities, take the first step and book me completely free using this QR code. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. I truly enjoyed y'all. I gotta go, but I'm gonna see you next time. And until then, hey, just keep moving.